All right, so we're back. We are going to be coloring this bad boy with some Copic markers. I have to erase it and then start adding the flat tones to it. Now, the erasing process, you don't have to fully erase the entire image. You can lightly just get off as much of the graphite as possible and then just start coloring over it. If you want to be super anal about it, then yeah, go ahead, erase it. It's not a big deal. All right, so what we're going to do is just slightly erase the characters here, and then what I like to do is I like to color code, and color coding has to do with putting in the marker number since it's going to be the base tone. What I like to do is utilize my chart right here, which you can get one of these charts over at otakufuel.com, and use this bad boy to get your markers, pop them in here, that way you know what colors you do have, and you never have to worry about missing another marker ever again. So what I like to do is put the color coding onto it and start figuring out what markers I need to use for the base tones, and because I like to come back later, like maybe a day or two, and then just wrap that up, so that way I can constantly keep the work flowing out of me instead of just doing one by one, because it can be daunting that way. So it's better to kind of, if you're in a drawing mode, then stay in that drawing mode. If you're in a sketch mode, then stay in that sketch mode. You know, you don't want to just constantly be doing beginning, middle, and end for every piece to then just redo it again. It just kind of feels kind of like monotonous that way. At least this way, whatever mode you're in, you do it for that week if you want, or that day, and then you can come back to it later and just hammer it out, and you have so much more fun doing that type of process than to try to finish a full piece. I mean, you can finish a full piece. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying this is just an easier mental solution for those who just don't feel like inking all day or inking for an entire week or whatnot. So, all right, so let's jump in and let's get some marker tones in here. So we know that this is Michelangelo, and Michelangelo is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, which needs a nice, I like to color them with a softer tone, but a little bit of vibrancy to it. So what we can do is actually search out for a nice soft tone. I like the YG06. So yellow green 6, yellow green 06. So I use the YG06 here, right there. And of course, never open markers on top of your artwork like I just did. Perfect example. No pops on it, but it does happen more often than not. So, but yes, a yellow 6. Whoa. All right, so what we're gonna do is go in with the brush side, and I like to just get in there and just smooth out the entire area. You don't have to take your time and color in the entire situation. You know how there's a couple of streaks in it. You don't have to feel like you have to cover all those streaks up. That's what gives it character. My advice is leave it kind of streaky and just have fun with the coloring process. This right here is technically why you got into comics for it, because you want to just have fun with the piece and not feel like you're restricted with 10,000 rules, you know, to be a professional. So a little streaky is good. A unified streak, you know, just make sure it's not too unified because it just looks weird towards the end, but just a little streak is fine. And then what we'll do is we'll continue this throughout the entire piece. By the time I'm done, it's going to be an entirely flat piece, and it's going to have color codes everywhere, and we'll be able to either jump on it real quick or just leave it for a few days while I probably color code other pieces and continue my life, because that's exactly what I like to do. I don't like to do these things for too long because they get boring. So, but it is fan art. I enjoy it, and the reason why you're watching this is because you enjoy it too. So, all right, so I'm gonna jump in and get this done. So let's say, for example, I'm all set with this. I come in YG06. Make sure you make a nice little note with a YG0. I put a slash on my 06, and then you know you point to the direction, and of course the shell will have another one, and so on and so forth throughout the entire piece. So your whole thing is going to look like this weird math problem with art in it. And with that said, we'll be right back with the other information. So we're back. Now we have a color chart system. Everything is aligned. Everything is perpetuated. I probably didn't use that word right. Okay, here's the situation. I have all of this color coded, and I have this flattened. Okay, for those who don't know, flats is the basicness of the color of what the character is going to be. And then of course we're going to build the lighting based off of what we have here. And of course we normally go off of the inks, because if it's a dark shadow tone on this side, then you're going to see a lot of dark shadow tones, like the way you see in the nunchuck right there. So we know that the lighting is going to be on this side. So now we're going to be mindful of the lighting and of the color tones. I like to keep my stuff muted, because in post you can bring it in and you can actually start tweaking it up as special effects, just like the movies. So let's jump straight in. We started with an R17, and now we're gonna jump into an R46 because it's a little darker, and I like a little darkness in my life. All right. Always open the markers away from the image. Take the chart. If it's in the way, move it out. Why? Because I'm pretty. I'm so pretty. Alright, so we're going to jump straight in. And I know that I have a lot of shadow tones on this side over here. So we're going to jump in and throw in the dark stroke in there. See how that looks? Perfect. So in the beginning, it's going to look very anime-like because you're not blending yet. I'm gonna go with the dark tone for the whole neck, because there's really no light in there. It's just a lot of shadows. So we're gonna keep that nice and dark. All right. So I'm gonna jump in here, and the number one thing I tell people is do the shadows first, because when you're getting into the secondary tone, the shadows is the most easiest place to start, because it's very common sense. Like, it's like, all right, cool, well, we know there's a shadow underneath his chin, a shadow in his trapezius muscle, and the trapezius is your next to your shoulders, or your delts. Get working my delts. So anyways, it's a very tedious process, but it's a process that needs to be made, because if not, you don't get paid, and I like to eat my yum yum. So, get in there, take the time. If it's boring, put on the TV, work your way up to it, and try to enjoy the process as much as possible, because in the beginning, you know, you're learning, so it's like, oh my gosh, I really want to be entertained with what I'm illustrating, you know, and you realize, oh man, I suck. Should have gotten into baseball. But just try to stay focused as much as possible. This is a stage where I'm kind of like, I'll put on the TV, I'll just relax and just kind of throw down the tones. It's not a horrible process. It's a horrible process. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. Okay. So when I get in here, we know that the straps are over here. So I'm gonna add that. Anything that has these dark areas, you jump in. Super simple. And then just keep going at it. Hey Steven, do you have any cool stories to let us know? Glad you asked. No. I don't know. Let's see. What can we talk about while I do this? Just to keep myself and you entertained, because of course this is free after all, and the only way you can help and support is with the Patreon subscription. It all started back in the days, back in the Dakota. No, okay. I'm messing around. I get crazy when there's cameras around me. Especially ones that I point at myself. No, story-wise, I really don't have anything. I'm drawing a blank. For the time being, I have a lot of stories, which is weird. I draw a blank now. Oh, I crossed over. You don't cross over, boy. You never cross over. See, there's more time being spent on this, so I get a little bit I guess cabin feverish, if you will, because I have to next to doing the flats, you kind of it's a daunting task because it's tedious, you know. And in the beginning, if you're doing the trench works like this is the process in which you have to endure. So imagine that I'm the one doing this, which you don't have to imagine because you're seeing me do it, but I'm doing this, but I'm very somewhat impatient. So I mean, this is somewhat therapeutic at the same time. This way I don't go too nuts. I mean, this is the reason why I kind of put TV in the background. But then again, you don't want to be distracted at the same time. So you have to be like super careful about your workflow. Because if you're not, then I'll put you to sleep, little rabbit. All right, so what we're looking at. All right, so we've added the secondary shadows in here for Deadpool, and then I'm gonna start working out all the secondary shadows for his gray area, and then we'll do blending. That's the fun part. I use a C5 for the gray, but I'm going with a C4. It's a little bit lighter because when I throw in the C7, and I'll do this just to kind of show you how. I'm using a C7 for the shadow tones here, right? And I can get heavy in here because it's okay. There we go. So we just want a little bit of light, just popping, making that shoulder pop out at you. And then so we'll get in here. I'm going to bring this in. And bring that in there. There we go. Alright, of course, once again, common sense. Shade up any of the dark areas that you see. It's very simple. Alright, so once we have this, we're going to go into the simple zones. get in there. There's no real wrong or right way to shade. You know, like sometimes I'll wisp it. It's like that. It's, don't be concerned with that. It's not something that's like, oh well, you know, he probably learned that in school, cause I would have never thought of that. Nah, it doesn't work that way. You just jump in and do your thing. So there is no secret. There is no anything. It's just put the time in and just try to enjoy the process as much as possible. Cause yeah, this is kind of mind-numbing. I normally work with earbuds in, because of course the music will help you concentrate better than TV would. I mean, you could have Hulu and Netflix playing in the background, but if you're not a seasoned pro like I am, you'll never get that job done. I'm BSing, because I always end up like this, like 5 minutes later, just like looking at at Hulu and YouTube, just completely like, oh, what episode is this? So I'm the first one to get caught up in the distraction. So yeah, just keep the earbuds. That actually works well. All right. What we got? 9 minutes. I'm coming here. Throwing a little bit into the shadowy areas, because I'll be able to blend. All this stuff right here is blendable, and that's why I use the 7, because it lightens up after a bit, and you just kind of get in here and just do that, and it'll blend right in. I can just blend all of this craziness right here. Just whoosh it in here. And give me a nice little contrast. Like that. So there's, of course, tons of methods. You can just go in and just have fun with throwing in the tones and keeping it light. And see, because it's lightening up, so it'll just start to it's gonna blend real nicely once you throw in that other tone in there, because it goes in dark, but then it just like super light right here. And I'll be done with this section here, and we'll be all set to start the ramping of the blending. So we have something like that, and of course we get in here the shadows, and use the shadows in there, and we'll be blending all that stuff in. Alright, I guess the back end. Boom. That's it. Very simple. Just base tone, secondary shadow. Keep it a little dark if you want, or you can keep it light. Once again, in post-production, you'll be able to knock everything out. So after that, just get into the blending point of it, and that's what we're doing next. And what we're going to do is we're going to start using, of course, the same ones, the R17 and R46, to do the blending. So I've already added a little bit more of the R46 to add a little bit more contrast, and then with the R17 I will be able to blend. How do you do that? I'm gonna show you right now. It's a special trick. My grandma showed me this trick, but she showed me with pasta sauce. She smeared it all over my face. Alright, let's get straight in. So what I do is I start from the dark area out, and remember, these are alcohol based. Don't do that. Blacked out there for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna come in And since these are alcohol based, it's really going to be treated like watercolor. It's going to take that rich, darker tone and it's just going to blow it in front of you. And it's going to just infuse it. I'm gonna try to do a little poetic wording here. It's gonna infuse the colors. It's gonna reduce it like a reductor in cooking. And I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. This is my first time coloring. No, just give it a second. It'll start to. It kind of blows itself out. Always go from dark to light. It works. You don't have to, but it works for me. And if it works, then yeah, try it out. And if you can go ahead and change up your style later down the line, go nuts. Because it's not really going to matter, because you know you want to try something different, and I encourage it. You know, but in the beginning, just kind of listen to me and do what I say. You know, just do what I say.
Patreon is where you want to be. Please donate. Subscribe, I mean.
It's Star Wars time. Come on, man. Give me that one. At least give me that one. Watch all the thumbs down. No thumbs down. That's right. Doesn't matter to me. All right, so we keep at it. It's sort of pretty much going over what you already did, and then just kind of go a little bit further into the base tone, because it'll help to blend it out there, and it dries up really quickly. And this is where I think this is where I have the most fun, because I'm able to even go back and even after it's dry and retouch up any other areas, and it starts to take form, sort of like animating. You animate that character for the first time, even if it's an eye blink or a smile. It's alive. So, and that's what you want. You want it to come alive. Now I tend to just kind of, when it comes to these edges, I'm really careful about touching up on those edges, because it'll just kind of soften up the edge too much. And sometimes you want that harsh line in there, and you don't want to just lose that. You know, like right there, I want that line, so I'm not gonna jump in there on that. But if the area is big enough, you can go ahead and just kind of smear a little bit in there. Yeah. That does it for the red, you see. And it just comes to life. And all you have to do is use two markers. You use the base tone, because I teach this a lot, which is use the base tone, then a darker tone, and then reuse the base tone to go on top of the darker tone, to then just completely infuse the whole thing. Next thing you know, you have a piece. The toughest part of this entire process is the time. It's the amount of time you have to spend on it, and the calculation of the shadows and all that. That's where all the real work comes in. So it's an easy process, but it's a tedious process, and that's the process that you know, people find daunting, or you know, artists find daunting. Then they're like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's just too much. You know, they'll do one piece, it comes out great, they're happy with it, they just don't want to mess with it anymore. And I get that. Been there, done that. But you know, only the true warriors will survive this process to continue making more. And it's up to you. So we're using the jelly roll. You can get these at Michael's. They're these nice little white pens. You can use Uniball as well. I haven't used Uniball, so I can't give you a quote on how they play out, but I've seen them being used and they look pretty cool. The cool thing about these markers or gel pens is that you can actually go back over it with the marker, and I'll show you right now. So I'm using the R17 because this came out a little bit bulbous for my taste. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slightly go over it, and there you go. I have a hint of white in there, and at the same time I save the piece. You can't really screw Copic stuff. It's just not in the cards, you know, because it's such an awesome marker. So just like to add touches and ciphers and hints of lighting in there. And this one is like really generous with the white today, because sometimes they kind of clog up. I just add a little bit of dots, just the dots. And it comes out nice and nice. Normally I reserve this for the ending, but sometimes I get a little giddy, just a little giddy, and then I just start doing it. All right, so I'm gonna get in here. There's a couple of dots here and there. You know, adds so much flair to the piece, and it just really infuses it. Just a dot here, dot there, and that's pretty much it. You know, get in here, just a little bit, just a hint. There we go. 3 little dots in there. All right, that looks good. The red is done. See that? Now you're done with an entire section, and this process continues on into the next one. That way, you're doing the green, you're doing the purple, and it's a wash, rinse, repeat. And the real trick is to play the lighting tones. And this is actually what's cool about this, is that you can see me do this 1,000 times, and with different pieces, of course, because I don't want to do the same thing over and over again. Each time you're gonna learn more of the bumps in the product itself, like, because you gotta make it look 3D. So you know, in essence, this is a 2D plane, but you have to give it that 3D look, and that right there is where the real magic happens, because with every different piece, there's a new form, you know, and at certain intervals, I can actually tweak it, you know, with an extra muscle that pops in, and that, for me, is the fun part when trying to teach this, because people can actually get into the rhythm of creating their own muscles. You know, even though it may not be right, but hey, if it looks cool, right? That's what I'm talking about. So we're gonna keep flowing through all of this, finish it off, and then we'll get to the final end of it with a nice little signature, and then we can erase these little ciphers off, because I'm not gonna need those things anymore. The R17, you're not gonna need that. So, but this comes in so much in handy when you're in a time constraint and you don't want to search for these markers without having these color codes. So always have the color codes on. It helps out. It's I mean, you don't have to, but I've seen people just grab markers at the convention and just start going at it, and that's cringe. I cringe when I see that, because that's not how they work. But that's how they work. So what can I say? So we'll continue this on, get on to the next step, and then we're out of here, because I need a nap. the unveiling. Rakata! Finally done. So once you have all of the mixtures in, you get that nice little glossy look. I like to give it the glossy look. You can give it more of a matted look. But in post-production, what I do afterwards is I actually start ramping up the contrast and using curves. Curves for me is my friend because I can actually start manipulating the tones just a little bit to fit my needs in the sense of what I'm looking for. And it's always like an amalgam of tones that just kind of like just mesh in just a little bit more, just more of that blending that I can get in post that I can achieve it, but it takes longer because it's all alcohol based, so you have to be like super dabby with it, and you know, post-production, it's there, why not use it, right? So with that said, we finalized this bad boy, put it up in the shop, it's fan art, we get on to the next piece, and this is how we do it.